everyone. Good evening to all. I am Dr. Akshay Shah, co-founder Jarma Wellness LLP. So let's quickly begin the session. So this session is all about first aid. So understanding first aid, first of all, what is first aid? And then what are the priorities for first aid or a first aider? First aider is obviously someone who helps when somebody requires or when somebody is injured. So the priorities for the first aider, and obviously then what we will go is we will go into the encounters that we face in day-to-day life, and then would be the first aid for that. So let's begin with the session on first aid for all. I would just request each one of you to have a pen and paper handy with you so that you can keep on having your own notes while the session is on. Okay, so what is first aid? First aid is the quick and correct actions taken in response to someone who is injured or ill. So many times we see that there are people out there who require help, but we don't know what to do exactly in that situation, and that's why we refrain going and helping those people. But that should not be the case. In this point of time, each one of us should know this very important life skill, right? Starting from students to the teachers, as well as each and every person should know what should be done. Obviously, it should be the quick help that should be taken, and it should be correct help. So in most of the cases, if we do not know what to be done properly or correctly, we can actually create a lot of problem for the injured or the person who is ill. So knowing it correctly is definitely very, very important. So first aid is the quick and correct actions taken in response to someone who is injured or ill. So this is what. So let's see quickly what are the priorities of first aid or a first aider. So the first thing that you have to do whenever we need to help somebody, if we have a person who requires immediate help or who is injured or a person who is ill, so there what we have to do. So one is obviously assess a situation quickly and calmly. So here what you have to do is you need to definitely first of all assess the situation, whether you are able to go and help somebody, whether it is safe for you to go and help somebody. For example, if you are on a beach and if you notice that somebody is drowning, and if you don't know if you don't know how to swim, definitely you should refrain going and helping somebody, because then there will be multiple casualties and nobody to help. So it is always better to assess a situation. Another situation that I can recall is if there is an road traffic accident which is at night and you are traveling on a highway. In that case, if you feel that it is not advisable for you to be in the middle of the highway and helping somebody, because there is always chances of somebody coming from back and hitting you as well, definitely you should refrain going there and not helping. So keeping our own safety is very, very important, and then hence you need to assess a situation quickly and calmly. That was one part. Another part of it is definitely when you are quick and calm, you have to make a note that what should be done, what kind of help is required, whether you can go and help somebody if that is important, second thing, or you need to quickly call an ambulance, or you need to quickly call the hospital. So if that is the priority, so priorities definitely should be charted out. So assessing a situation quickly and calmly is very important. Second, protect yourself and casualty. So casualty, when I say, is a person who is injured or need help. So whenever you need to protect yourself, so you protect yourself and casualty. Like I said, if there is any kind of danger that you feel that a danger is for you. So if you feel that you cannot help somebody because you can injure yourself, please do not go and help somebody. But if you can, if you are in a position, if you are trained properly, definitely you can go and help someone or a casualty who is injured or need help. Prevent cross infection, again very, very important. Since now we are learning about first aid, definitely we need to keep one thing in mind, is we should prevent cross infection. For example, if we are treating somebody for wound, if the wound is deep, or we are treating somebody for burns, again infection from us should not pass on to that person. So that precaution should be taken by a first aider or person who is helping somebody. So wearing a proper gloves. If you don't have gloves, washing your hands with soap and water, disinfecting your hands with sanitizer is again very, very important before helping somebody. Comfort and reassure. So this again is a very important trait of a first aider. Or now when we learn on how to actually, help somebody, the first thing that as a first aider you have to do is comfort. Give comfort to the person who is injured or need help, and reassure them that yes, you are there to help them. They need not panic, they need not be restless, because that can actually trigger a lot of things which are unnecessary and which can actually hamper the condition of the person. So you should not do that. So comfort, giving comfort and reassuring the person or casualty is very, very important. Assess the casualty, again very, very important. When I say casualty, please make a note that casualty is nothing but a person who is injured or require help. So assessing the casualty is again very important, just to know what has happened, when it has happened. If the casualty or the person can speak, obviously you can take a history of what has happened and how the person is injured and what help can you do. But if the person cannot speak, if the person is unconscious, if the person is not in a position to talk to yourself, again it is very important to know or assess the casualties. Where is there any bleeding that is happening? You need to first of all control the bleeding. If there is any kind of, for example, a live wire which is touched to the body of the person, then you need to make sure that okay, the first thing you have to do is go and switch off the button, and the live electric current should be cut off. So likewise, assessing the person who is in need is very important before you start treating them. The important point is, the next important point is give early treatment. So giving early treatment, like I said, definition of first aid itself says that it should be the quick and correct treatment or help given to somebody. So give early treatment. So if there are multiple casualties or multiple people who require your help in that moment of time, first thing you have to think through is who is the person whom you should go and attend to first. Right? So that priorities is very important. Obviously, when you do a comprehensive training in first aid, you will be, better be able to see and better be able to decide on the casualty who requires the first help, and you need to go and treat that person first. And arrange for appropriate help. Again, very, very important. So we should have all the emergency numbers and, emergency contact with us, so that we can arrange for appropriate help whenever we see a person who is injured. So arranging for appropriate help, calling the doctor, calling the ambulance, calling the emergency numbers is very important. So these are some of the priorities of a person who knows how to do a first aid. Right? So quickly, let's go to the next slide. And here are some universal first aid procedures. So, first aid is a vast ocean where you need to practice this skill, because first aid is a practiced skill. So you need to practice it day in and day out, and we do it. So in our house, if we get a cut, we do first aid. So that is nothing but first aid, right? If there is a kitchen burn, we do a lot of things, right? We go and apply ghee on it. We go and apply turmeric powder on it. We go and apply oil or something on it. But what should be the correct thing to be done is again very, very important, that we will see in the session coming forward. So here are some of the universal first aid procedures. These procedures are adopted worldwide. These are global. So what should be done? First of all, anybody, whenever you feel that anybody is injured or anybody requires help, the first thing you have to do is assess. You need to assess the scene. Scene is the person where, or the place where that person is lying down or sitting down. So if it is a jungle, you need to make sure that it is safe for you to go. There are no poisonous animals or dangerous animals there, and yes, it is safe for you to go and help. So these are some of the examples. Then you need to alert the emergency, alert the ambulance, alert the hospitals or a doctor nearby, whomever you know. So again, alerting somebody, so that while you attend to the victim, while you attend to the casualty, or while you attend to the person who require help, meanwhile you are not wasting time and there is help which is coming there. And then obviously attending the casualty. Casualty is again, like I said, the person who requires help. So attending the person. So these are three universal first aid procedures. Each one of us should keep this thing in mind before helping somebody. This 3A, the formula is 3A: assessing the situation, If it is safe for you to go and help, please go and help. Alert. The second thing you have to do is alert somebody, so that meanwhile, while you attend somebody, there is help which is coming up, and then definitely go and start attending the person. So these are some of the universal first aid procedures. Yes, and let's move to the next slide, which is again very, very important. When we say first aid, this is one of the things which is very important and which comes in, we see it day in and day out, cardiopulmonary resuscitation. So cardiopulmonary resuscitation is nothing but revival of heart and lung functions. So if there is a victim who is unconscious, if there is a person met with an accident who is unconscious, unresponsive, he is not talking to you, there is no breathing, there is no circulation. So breathing, you can check by the breathing sounds, and there is look, listen and feel. So you can look for chest rise if somebody is breathing. You can listen for the noise of the respiration, and then you can feel the breath of a person, whether to check whether the person is breathing or not. Then obviously you need to check for circulation, and you can check the circulation using the carotid pulse, the pulse in the neck. Yeah, so that is carotid pulse. So by seeing this, if you feel that okay, there is no respiration, there is no circulation happening, there is no breathing happening, you need to start with CPR. CPR is nothing but cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Cardio is heart, pulmonary is lung. So you need to start the cardiac and lung function. But again, CPR can only be done if you are trained in that. So you can attend our comprehensive certification programs on first aid to learn in detail about CPR and other life-saving procedures. Again, these are very easy to perform, but these are very difficult to learn because they are a practiced skill. You need to continuously practice it, and that is how you learn about it. And these are definitely life-saving procedures. So anybody, family, friends, anybody, if you are traveling, somebody may need help, and you will be able to do that, because usually we are in that guilt. So if we are traveling, we see somebody lying down there, we are not able to help them because we don't know what to do. So that guilt is always there, but we can definitely, learn all these life-saving procedures, and we can help them, and they are very easy, right? So this is all about CPR. So compressions, airway, opening the airway, and then breathing, mouth-to-mouth rescue breaths. So this was all about CPR. Recovery position, again, a very life-saving and very simple position. Each one of us should know about it. So if a person is unconscious but is breathing and has no other life-threatening conditions, they should be placed in the recovery position. So this is the position you can see in the picture over there. It is lying down any one side, either left or right side, and tilting up the chin and head. So this is the best position to keep somebody when the help is arriving. So you should always ask, if the person is unconscious, is not breathing, and if you feel that person need to lie down, the person always should be lied down in this position, which is called as a recovery position. Yeah, so putting someone in the recovery position will ensure their airway remains clear and open. It also ensures that any vomit or fluid will not cause them to choke, right? So any vomit or fluid that comes out from the oral cavity will not cause them to choke. So this is the best position, safest position for somebody to keep. If you want somebody who is injured, and if you want them to keep for some time, if they do not have any other life-threatening conditions, please put them in this position, which is a recovery position. It is either on the left side or the right side of your body, and on the ground, and making sure that your the chin and head is tilted upwards. So this is recovery position. Again, very important, very simple, but life-saving. Okay, so that was all about the introduction of the first aid. And then we definitely saw the priorities of first aid, and then we had the universal first aid procedures. We saw about CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and then we saw about recovery position. Obviously, when you do a comprehensive program, you in depth learn more about this kind of procedures, how to actually put somebody in a recovery position, how to the CPR. All this definitely can be learned. So let's move on to our next section, which is first aid or emergency response for various conditions encountered in day-to-day life. So let's make this very interesting. What I'll do is I'll just ask you some questions about the conditions and I want the answers. Definitely we can, and I'll provide you with the correct answers to this. So let's play a small KBC kind of a game over here. And okay, so before that we see something on about fire, smoke or fumes. So if there is a fire, if your clothes or someone else's clothes catch on fire, you should, first thing you should do is don't run, do not panic, be calm. And what you have to do is stop, drop and roll until the flames go out. Obviously, if you are in your house or if you are in a place which you know and you know where the water is available, you can definitely go to the bathroom or the water source. But if the place is unknown to you, definitely you should not run, do not panic, stop, drop and roll, and that will extinguish the fire. The another very important thing, and in majority of the cases, what happens is people do not die because of fire. People die because of smoke or fumes in the room wherever there is a fire. So we always fear that there is fire and the fire will kill us. No, the fire won't kill us unless and until you are burned completely. But definitely the smoke or fumes are the main culprit over here. So whenever you see a fire, always you should first think about smoke and fume. So there are certain points that you should always keep in mind. Never enter a smoke filled building or room or open a door leading to a fire. So you should never do that. Never enter a smoke filled building. Right? If you are inside, if you are trapped inside a building and if you feel that you cannot go out of that room, and there is no fire in that room where you are, but there is fire outside, what you have to do is close all the doors. And if you have a window which can be opened outside, so definitely open all the windows and then put some wet cloth near to the door where there is no possibility of smoke to come into your room, and definitely you should be looking out from the window. This is what you should do. If you want to come out from a place where you feel that it is completely filled with smoke, you need to stay low. You can crawl and cross a smoke filled room. Air is clearest at the floor level. So whenever you crawl and then you slowly you can come out of the smoke filled room. Do not run. If you run, you inhale more of the poisonous gases in the room, and that definitely is very, very poisonous and fatal. So always keep that in mind. Whenever it is, never enter a smoke filled building or room. If you want to come out of the building or room, always you have to crawl and then come out. That was all about fire, smoke and fumes. Yeah, so let's start with our encounter problems that we encounter in day-to-day life, and what are the first aid for that. Yes, so first aid for burns. So what is the first aid for minor burns? Yes, applying ghee, applying turmeric powder, applying ice, none of the above. Yeah, you can always put your answers in a chat window if you want, or definitely you can write it on your notebook and you can look into it. Yes, so applying ice, applying ghee. I've got a lot of answers in our chat window. Ice, none of the above, ice. Okay, great, right? So, okay, so the answer over here is none of the above. So we cannot apply ghee nor turmeric powder. We should not apply ice definitely. And the answer is none of the above. So what is the correct answer? Okay, so answer is holding the burnt area under cold running water until the pain and burning sensation goes away. This is the first aid for any kind of minor burns. Obviously, burns can be classified into minor, which are first and second degree burns. First degree burns are usually the kitchen burns, where you get, while cooking or when you accidentally touch a hot vessel or water. So that gives you first degree burn. Second degree burns are burns where you get blisters, right? So do not break blisters. So blisters should not be, broken on your own. Definitely doctors can do that under a sterile condition. So hold under water. So hold under water the area for 10 to 15 minutes. This should be the first aid for any kind of minor burns or kitchen burns that we encounter in our day-to-day life. Second thing you have to do is remove any tight items. For example, if you have got a ring and the same finger is been burnt, definitely you should remove the ring first, or any kind of bracelet or any kind of jewelry. Because usually what happened, if the burn is second degree or third degree burn, usually there is a swelling that happens, and then if there is swelling, it is very difficult for the doctors to cut the jewelries and take out the jewelries. So always remove tight items or jewelries. Do not break blisters. If it is a second-degree burn and if you feel that there are blisters, you should not break the blisters. Or definitely you can apply cold water on it. If the blisters settle down, apply sterilized gauze piece and then roll it, and you can go to the doctor immediately. But the first aid should always be applying cold water or holding the burnt area under cold running water until the pain or burning sensation goes away. So why we should not apply ghee, turmeric powder or ice on it? Obviously, when we apply ghee, oil, turmeric powder to burnt area, the pores of our skin get closed because of ghee, turmeric or any moisturizer or anything. So, and what happens is that heat that is trapped inside the skin will not be able to come out, and that will actually worsen the condition, and the pain will not subside immediately. The only thing to subside the pain and burning sensation is cold running water. So this should be the first aid for burns. Wounds, right? So what should be done if someone or you get wounded by a sharp knife on the forearm? And in that case, it can be anything. Just to take an example, I have put a sharp knife over here, and the multiple answers are: clean the wound with water and soap, apply direct pressure to the wound, apply dry cotton on the wound. Option 1 and 2. Okay, I'm getting some answers to here. So option 1 and 2, applied direct pressure. So the answer is option 1 and 2. Yes. And what should be the first aid over here? So the first aid is wash out minor cuts with soap and water and then cover it with a bandage. Yeah. If you have a deep cut, cover it with a clean cloth. So if you have a clean cloth that you feel is clean and washed, definitely you can use that. Press down on the cut and keep the pressure steady until the bleeding stops. So when there is wound, there are two aims as a first aider that you have to do is, there are two aims. One aim is obviously that you need to control bleeding if there is a bleeding that is happening, and second is to control infection. So when you control or when you take care of these two things, definitely your aims are fulfilled. So bleeding and infection. So what you have to do is press down on the cut and keep the pressure steady until the bleeding stops. So this is what you should do. If there is an object in the wound, if there is anything that is embedded in the wound, if there is an object, for example, glass piece, or if there is a nail or something that you get in a puncture wound. So if there is an object in the wound, press either side of the embedded object to control the bleeding. Do not remove the object if wound is deep. So very important, you should not remove any embedded object into the wound as a first aider, because as a first aid. This can be done by a doctor, so that because if there is any foreign particle which is in the wound, it actually helps the healing process, and that will stop the bleeding. If you remove that embedded object into it, the bleeding may increase. So you should never do that. So if the bleeding doesn't stop, you should call the doctor immediately. But keeping pressure pad or pressure bandage on the bleeding or on the wound definitely helps. You should do that. And again, one very important point is, if the first cloth or sterilized gauze piece that you have kept on the wound is completely wet by bleeding, definitely you should not remove that and place the another one. That will not help the healing process. What you have to do is, you should keep the another second one on the first one. If you require one more, you should keep the third one on the second one. And likewise, you can start pressing on the wound, and then you ultimately, when the bleeding stops, you can bandage it and go to a doctor. So this should be the first aid for any kind of wound. Fracture, again, very commonly seen. So what is the first aid for fractures? Tie a splint to the area in its original position by realigning the bone. Again, I'll repeat, tie a splint. Splint is nothing but a support to the area in its original position by realigning the bone. Apply pressure on the swelled fracture area to reduce swelling. Apply hot bag, none of the above. Okay, so tie a splint is one of the answers coming, and then apply hot bag. I've got a lot of answers coming in. Okay, so what is it? It is none of the above, definitely. So take these actions immediately before waiting for medical help. So stop any bleeding. If there is a fracture, but before fracture, you need to always see if there is any kind of bleeding that is happening. So you need to stop bleeding. You now know how to stop bleeding. You should apply pressure pad on the wound to stop any kind of bleeding, and that pad can be sterilized gauze piece or a clean cloth, anything that can be used. Immobilize the injured area. Don't try to realign the bone or push a bone that is sticking out back in. So definitely you should not try to realign the bone and or push a bone. If there is a bone which is coming out of the skin, you should not try to realign it to its original position, but definitely you should immobilize the injured area. So immobilize is you need to make sure that there is no mobility or movement of that part what that is been fractured. So you should make sure that it is immobilized. And how to do that? You can use anything. You can use umbrella, you can use stick, you can use anything that is available, and just tie it around the fractured bone so that the bone does not move. So this you can do it and make sure that there is no movement to it, right? You can apply ice packs. Always keep this in mind. If there is a fracture, you should not apply hot pack. It always should be ice packs, because the trauma is very acute. So in anything that is acute, you can use ice packs. Anything that is chronic from many days, you can apply hot pack. So apply ice packs to limit swelling and help relieve pain until emergency personnel arrive. And treat for shock. Shock is nothing but if the person is fainted. And in the coming slides, we will see how to treat for fainting and shock. So you need to treat for that. So this is the first aid for fracture. Okay, nosebleeds, again, very, very common, and 90% of us do it wrong. So what will you do if you or someone gets nosebleed? Pinch the nose and look upwards and backwards. Apply ice or water on head. Pinch the nose and look forward. Rinse the nostrils with lot of cold water. Okay, so what should be the first aid for this? Okay, I've got some answers over here. So that is apply ice or water on head, pinch the nose and look upwards and backwards. Okay, so let's get to the answers. Yeah, you can see now the answer is in front of you. So if you get a nosebleed, sit down and lean forward to keep the blood from going down your throat. So you should never look upwards or backwards. You need to pinch the nose, the either side of your soft portion of your nose for 10 minutes, not lesser than that. Yeah, 10 minutes, and definitely tilt forward. You should not look upward or backward. So if you do that, there is always a possibility of blood going down to your windpipe, which can be a cause of choking. Yeah, so definitely not do that. Pinch the nose and look forward. Take a handkerchief or a clean cloth and place it over the bridge of your nose. Squeeze firmly on both sides of the soft portion of your nose for 10 minutes. This is the time that you should firmly squeeze. Keep the pressure steady. If the bleeding doesn't stop, call the doctor immediately. But 99.99% of the times, the bleeding will stop if you squeeze the soft portion of your nose for 10 minutes. Obviously, what we do is when we start pressing it, eventually after 2 minutes or 3 minutes, we again release the pressure to see if the bleeding has stopped. This should not be done, because that will hamper the healing process inside your nose, and that should be you should squeeze at least for 10 minutes. Obviously, if there is a question that how will the child or you take oxygen, that can be done, or the breathing can be done from the mouth. So not to worry about it. So 10 minutes and the nosebleeds will stop. Eye injuries, again, I will need all of you, listen very carefully over here. Yes, so for chemical exposure, so don't rub eyes. So if there is anything that is chemical in nature and that has been splashed into your eyes, what should be done? Don't rub your eyes. Immediately wash out the eye with lot of water. Use whatever is closest, the closest source of water there. Get medical help while you are doing this, or after 15 to 20 minutes of continuous flushing. And then don't bandage the eye. Again, very, very important. If there is anything that is chemical or acidic in nature that goes into your eyes, you should not bandage the eye. And you need to flush out your eye with lot of water. Even after doing for 15-20 minutes, if you feel that you are not comfortable, definitely you should visit a doctor. Right? The second condition, a blow to the eye. Again, very, very common condition, blow to the eye. In schools, one puts a pencil to the eye, or if there is a fight and you get a blow in the eye, what should be done? Okay? So apply a cold compress, but don't put pressure on the eye. If there is bruising, bleeding, change in vision, or it hurts when your eye move, see a doctor right away. Right? So this should be the first step. So if there is a blow to the eye, apply cold compress for at least 15 to 20 minutes. Even after that, and if you see that there is change in the condition of the eye, definitely you should visit the doctor. Make sure that you reassure the person who has got such kind of condition that everything will be okay, and you and the person should not be panicked. Okay, the third condition, for a foreign particle in the eye, right? So don't rub the eye, pull the upper lid down and blink repeatedly. When you do that, obviously the particle will come to one end of the eye and you can remove it easily. So if particle is still there, rinse with eye wash or eye wash glass. You get an eye wash glass in the market, which you can put on the eye and the water can be poured, so that from one end of the eye is washed. If rinsing doesn't help, close eye, bandage it lightly and see a doctor. So there is a difference. So if there is a chemical exposure, you need to keep the eye open and then go to a doctor. But if there is any kind of foreign particle in the eye, maybe it is a dust or anything that is in the eye, you should definitely close the eye, bandage it lightly and then see a doctor. So these small things before going to a doctor helps a lot. So this is what you should do for eye injuries. Fainting, again very common, right? So what should be the first aid for fainting? Advise the person to lie down and raise his legs. Put cold water on his face or her face. Let the person sit on a comfortable chair, or give the person something to eat or drink. Okay, so what should be the answer to fainting? Okay, I got some answers like let the person sit on a comfortable chair, put cold water, let the person sit in a comfortable chair, and I've got some correct answers too. And the correct answer is advise the person to lie down and raise his legs. So fainting is very common condition. So temporary loss of normal blood supply to the brain leads to fainting. You think it is nothing else. So advise the person to lie down and raise his legs, like you can see in the next picture over there. So this will definitely this will help lot of blood to the brain and lot of oxygen to the brain, and the person revives in just 5 minutes. You should not put cold water on his or her face. Do not give anything to eat or drink until the person himself or herself can sit on a comfortable chair. Never let such kind of person to sit. You should always ask them to sleep and raise their legs or elevate their legs. And this is nothing but head low position. So this position, if you make the person to sleep, definitely the person revives in another 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, seizures, convulsions or fit. Again, very, very common. The conditions is due to disturbance in the electrical activity of the brain. So epileptic fits are very common, known to each one of us. So what should be done? So here we have certain do's and don'ts. So do protect the person from injury. Remove harmful objects from nearby. Cushion their head. Look for an epilepsy identity card or identity jewelry. Usually such, if it is a known case and if the person knows that he is suffering from such kind of epilepsy or fit, definitely he will be carrying something. We doctors usually advise them to carry identity card with them. Aid breathing by gently placing them in the recovery position. You all know how to put a person in a recovery position, side lateral position. Stay with the person until recovery is complete and be calmly reassuring. So reassure the person. Obviously you cannot do anything, or nobody can do anything to stop the fit or the involuntary movement of the muscles. It cannot be stopped by anything. So you should not try and stop the movements. So what you should not be doing, restrain the person's movement. Like I said, put anything in the person's mouth. Do not give anything to eat or drink until they are fully recovered. Attempt to bring them round, right? So attempt to bring them to their own original position, let them sit. You should not do that. Ask them to lie down, hold them and put them on the ground so that there is no further danger to them. right? So do not give anything to eat or drink until, again, very, very important to avoid person from choking. Do not give anything to eat or drink until they are fully recovered. So this is what you can do in case of seizure, convulsions, or fit. Choking. Yeah, we were talking about choking since a long now. So you can see in the picture, we have got a normal food passage, and then food inhaled down the windpipe. You can see it very easily. So anything that goes into the windpipe restricts the air to flow in the lung, and the person chokes. So this is a universal sign for choking. So if somebody comes out of a restaurant with such kind of a position, definitely you can feel that the person is choking or gasping for breath. So what should be done? Again, very, very simple and very important maneuver that you can do. Person who is choking is this. It is called as the Heimlich maneuver. Stay behind the person and wrap your arms around his or his waist with one hand made into a fist. You can see that fist, how that person is looking at. The thumb of your feasted hand should rest against the victim's abdominal well above the navel and just below the breastbone. So in between the navel and the breastbone or sternum, the middle bone, you can feel a notch over there. So just between the notch and your abdominal well. So that is the exact position. And then you need to push upwards and backwards. It should be, the push should be upwards and backwards. So when you push it with repeated thrust, definitely if there is anything which is lodged inside will come out. And this is because of a reflex action. Reflex action to the diaphragm. Diaphragm is the muscle which divides your thoracic cavity, the lung cavity, with your abdomen. There is a muscle over there. So we push that muscle, and with this, definitely the lodged particle comes out. It is very, very useful, and definitely it helps. So this is what you can do, and this is life saving, because if a choking person doesn't get help within time, he or she may die. Drowning, again, very, very important. So when you spot someone drowning, get help. Notify a lifeguard if one is close. If not, ask someone to call emergency services. If you are alone, follow the steps below. So move the person, take the person out of the water. Check for your own safety first. So again, like I said, if you do not know how to swim, if you do not know what to be done, definitely do not enter the water and save the person. Yeah. But if you know how to swim and if you're confident that you can go and help, definitely do that. Check for breathing. If place your ear next to the person's mouth and nose, do you feel air on the cheek? Look to see if the person's chest is moving. Check for breathing, check for circulation. So if there is no breathing, no circulation, you can start with CPR if you are trained to do so. But if you feel the pulse and if you feel that the person is still breathing, there is a circulation, and circulation can be checked by checking the carotid pulse. The pulse here in the neck, either side of your neck, you can check the carotid pulse. So if you see that yes, there is circulation there and the heart is working and there is breathing, the person is breathing, put the person in recovery position. Like I said, that is the safest position to keep somebody who is breathing but unconscious, who has got circulation but the person is unresponsive, not able to speak to you. In that condition, before the emergency help arrives, you should put the person in a recovery position. That is the safest position. So this is what you should do if somebody is drowning and when you pull out somebody from water. Obviously, there is one myth that we all see for drowning in pictures or in serials, is that whenever somebody is drowning, they pull them out and they start pressing stomach, pull out the water from the stomach. It is completely useless. It is not the first aid for drowning. Do not try that. You will be wasting far much time in doing what is useless, and the person may actually die. Right? So that is completely fake. It is only to be shown in movies or serials. So do not do that. Poisoning, yes. So if anyone consumes anything poisonous, so what you should do is call the doctor immediately. This is the first thing as a first aider that you should do, or anybody should do, is call the doctor immediately. But when you call the doctor, you should have as much information as you can about what was taken, how much, when, etc. Usually the bottle of the poison is somewhere near to the person who has drank it, and that's what you should do is you should immediately take the bottle and read it on what it was. Whenever you call to a doctor, you should always tell them that what was taken, so that the doctors can come or the help can arrive along with the antidote. So each and every poison will have an antidote, that is the medicine for that poison. So that will definitely save that golden period where doctors can get, or the ambulance or the hospital can be ready with the antidote of that poison, and you save life. So definitely you do that. Do not give anything to eat or drink. So if you feel somebody has taken poison, do not give anything to eat or drink. Wait until help arrive, or if you have a hospital which is very nearby, take the person there. Do not ask person to run or walk along with you, because with that what happens is the poison may spread in the body quickly. So you should not ask the person to walk even one step or run along with you. And do not induce vomiting. So usually what we do is, we feel that the poison has been taken, we can induce vomiting by giving salt and water, and the poison will be out and the person will be safe. No, you should not do that. Most of the poisons are acidic in nature. When the person drink it, it creates lot of burns, injures the food pipe, esophagus, that connects to the stomach. And when you induce vomiting, again the same thing will happen, and it will actually create problems with the food pipe, even perforation of the food pipe, and the person may die. So do not induce vomiting, and you need to stay calm. So reassurance is very, very important for such kind of people, because ultimately this is fatal. But yes, more, you start panicking. The people are, if we are not reassuring to them, that can definitely create lot of problems. So that was about poisoning. Snake bite, yeah, not very common, but yes, there are a lot of questions that I get usually on snake bites. So what should be the aim of a person, right? So to prevent venom spread should be the first aim of a first aider, and to arrange urgent movement to hospital. So this too should be the aims for any kind of snake bite. What should be not be done is very important. Do not apply a tourniquet. Tourniquet is nothing but a tight bandage, is called as tourniquet. You should not do that. Slash the wound with a blade or knife, and do not try to suck out the venom. So you should not apply tight bandage above the wound. You should not slash the wound with a blade or knife to suck out the venom, or you should not do it with your mouth to suck the venom out. Do not ask the person to walk or make any kind of movement. So this is again very, very important. You should not ask anybody, the person who is been bitten by snake, to walk or make any kind of movement. So what should be done? Help the person sit down comfortably. Again, very important. When we reassure, and you should be reassuring the person that everything is fine. See, almost 80% of the snakes are non-poisonous. There are only 20% of the snakes that are poisonous, which are in India. So it is possible that the person may have been bitten by a non-poisonous snake, but the panic that usually, or the fear that can trigger an episode which can actually lead to many other problems. So you should be reassuring the person and advise not to move the limbs. Usually snake bites are on limbs, either on legs or hands. So to prevent the spread of venom, if the bite area is clearly visible, apply a pressure bandage. So pressure bandage should be applied on the wound, but definitely it should not be tight enough. It should not be tight enough, and the aim should not be to apply a bandage to prevent the venom spread. No, it is just to make sure that there is no further bleeding or infection to that area. And immobilize the limb as soon as possible. If you feel that there is a bite on a leg, make sure that you immobilize the limb as soon as possible by putting any kind of umbrella or stick to it, and making sure that the limb is immobilized, that is, there is no movement to that limb. So this should be the aim of first aider for a snake bite. Make sure that if your area is more prone to snake bites, you should always make sure that you have got the emergency number in place. You know where the anti-venom, that is the medicine, anti-venom to the snake bite, is available nearby to you. So this is very important again. Okay, so that was all about the day-to-day encounters and the first aid to it. Obviously we have got a list of another encounters and what should be done, but these were some of the very day to day where we face these encounters and how to make sure that you help somebody, or if at all you are in that place, how to help yourself. So that was all about the first aids for various encounters. And so what are the takeaways from the session? So consider taking a comprehensive training program for the most important life skill, first aid. It can definitely save lives. It is very easy. Like I said, a comprehensive training program is at most necessary. This is the most important life saving your skill. So definitely you should consider taking that. Always keep an first aid box handy. Consider keeping it in your car, your workplace and house. So everywhere you need a first aid box. Have emergency numbers ready with you always. Store it in your mobile phone and also stick a copy of it at important places. Again, very important, because like we saw the universal first aid procedures. So that is assessing and then it is alerting. So if you know that, okay, you are going to help somebody, before that you need to first of all call an emergency number before helping or attending the person. So do not hesitate to help someone in need, irrespective of whether you know them or not. So even if you do not know them, even if they are not known to you, but if you know on how to help them, please go ahead and help them, and they definitely require you. That can save lives. And most important, do not panic and stay calm always. So now once you know what should be done, what should not be done, you should not panic yourself and you should stay calm before helping others. So this definitely will help them. Thank you for patient listening.